So depending on how thorough you want to go with the process, I'm not exactly sure. You can add these steps or take them away. But my process, I start off with prepping my shirts. The way I do this is I take my white shirt and I dip it in water mixed with soda ash. Now soda ash is very similar in compound to baking soda. You can actually make it fairly simple if you don't want to go out and find it. Sometimes stores like Walmart will have it. Sometimes stores like Hobby Lobby will have it. But if you can't find it, or if you don't want to go, you can go to a pool store and ask for it, soda ash. But if you don't want to do that, you can make it if you have like a baking soda around. And I'll show you how to do that. It's very simple. All you do is take baking soda by itself, put it in a pan, add heat. It will dry bubble, which is very kind of cool if you're into like the science thing, if you want a little science. And then once it stops releasing those air particles, you have soda ash. You go from baking soda to soda ash. So what I have here is just some baking soda, and I threw it in a pan and I turn on the heat. And I just did that, so I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. Put in a little bit extra because I can't find a smaller saucepan. And I have a whole bunch of soda ash, but I'm just kind of showing you kind of what it does. If you want to do it, you don't have to use that much. I'm gonna let it's just by itself, and I'm gonna let it dry boil. Still waiting. Should only take a couple minutes. All right. So, watch as I stir it. I don't know if you can see that. Man. So that's the baking soda turning into soda ash. I'm gonna stir it a little bit. As it heats up, it'll start doing it by itself a little bit. And when it stops, then your baking soda has become soda ash. Yeah. Items you're gonna need are, if you're just having some fun, which you should be, I'd say grab a couple washable markers. It doesn't really matter what color. You're going to use these to draw on your shirt, the design in which you'll be folding. So it doesn't really matter what color you use. Some people use the color they want to use to dye. Like I know some children want to do that. Most kids get it. The washable marker will wash out, and you can draw on it in pink and dye your shirt blue, and it won't affect it. You're going to want something to tie. So you can use something like this, like a thin, very thin synthetic. Well, this is, I guess, a little thicker. This is probably like 3 times like dental floss. This probably wouldn't work. This is hemp. It probably break after it got wet. It's something you can pull pretty tight. What some people do is they'll take dental floss and they'll make it like very long and like dual or three strands and use that. What you're going to be doing is when you're making a tie point, since the shirt's going to be slightly damp, or even when it's dry it still works, but it constricts those fibers from expanding, which means the dye will dye here. It'll skip over the tie point mostly, and if it bleeds, it'll bleed on to the other side, but you have that nice white line that you see in a lot of these designs. So that's what you're doing. You want something that's going to be sturdy enough to constrict those fibers from absorbing dye. So now we're just going to add some water. Some of the soda ash to the warm. It doesn't really, I just like to make it a little translucent. Have your prepping solution. Then you take your white shirt and you kind of saturate it. You can wear gloves. Sometimes this stuff will bother. It doesn't bother me, but you just rinse it. Make sure it just gets kind of. If you look right there, I don't know if you can see. There's a couple dry marks. Just make sure you kind of get it saturated. Squeeze out the excess. Bam. When you have a prepped shirt, you can either. I like to just kind of, what we're going to do here is we're going to start by finding our center lines, because we're going to fold this thing in half. We're not going to fold it in half the way that you normally would do, and I'll tell you why. You're going to fold it so that the front side is by itself and then the back side is by itself. And this is kind of confusing, but I'm just going to show you and maybe it'll make sense. Or if it doesn't, just do what I'm doing. And if my video isn't clear enough, then I don't know. You're screwed. So I'm the only one with all this information. I'm joking. So what I do is I take a washable marker, fold my shirt out flat, and I mark my sleeve point. I mark my base corners. I'm gonna try to do this fast so I'm not eating up a lot of time, even though I'm already eating up a lot of time. Then I'm gonna take this shoulder mark and move it to the other shoulder mark, and this bottom mark and move it to the other bottom mark. This is gonna give me my center line. Bam. Some people will just go off the tag. The tags aren't always center. Really, I don't really care about that so much. I'm more concerned with this front collar center and this collar center. I mean, this middle center. From here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab these two. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna bring these two lines that are on the side to itself, and I'm gonna put that sleeve inside that sleeve. Kind of confusing, but what you're doing is you're making a true center line. I'll put this sleeve inside this sleeve. Make sure these marks line up. That didn't go as smooth as I liked. That's why we mark it. Really didn't go as smooth as I liked, but that's okay. And I got these two. Where's my second line? Did I not mark the back? I didn't mark the back. So now we have a front right here. This is the front. Then we have back right here. So what we can do now is I can do a design to the front here. I can tie it however I want, dye this, and it will bleed through to the other side. So I'll have a left and right side mirror. And then same with the back. I can flip it over and do something different to the back, and I'll have a left and right side mirror. Now you can fold, you can do the same type of thing if you want to fold it like this, vertically, and you'll get a top and bottom mirror as well. But for this design, I do left and right. Yeah. So my next step. Now, when I'm doing a lot of shirts, I pull out I have a stencil that I use. Most of the time I don't use it because I can't find it, and I just make a new one if I'm doing a lot. But I'll just sketch a heart, half a heart, cool thing is you don't have to know how to draw, you just have to know how to draw, kind of. This is going to be our folding line. Now, you can shape, what I do is I shape it, find a line that I like, and then I'm going to go over it with one final color. Once I find what I want. I think I like that blue one. What I'm going to do now is, if you've ever made a paper fan, which you do an accordion fold, which is just left and right, left, right. I'm not going to do it at the bottom, I'm going to do it along this line. What you're doing is, this is going to be your tie line. I'm going to try to move this down. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to do a small accordion fold. Now if I fold both sides, if I fold this front and the back, I'll get a heart on both sides once I tie it off. I don't want to do that, I just want to do the front. So what I'll do is I'll just grab this, isolate it, and I'll start folding. My goal is to keep this blue line that I'm following on top of itself. I've never done it with a tripod in between my arms. This is kind of strange. The goal is you make the turn, just do little folds. I like the fact that it's a little damp. What you can do, since it's damp, you can tie it. If you want it to dry a little bit, you can let it dry. Itty bitty folds. I didn't bring any scissors, so this is going to be interesting. So bam, this is what I have. Move that over a little bit. I have my blue line, my half heart, and pretty much a vertical fold. I'm going to take this as my sinew. This is where you would take your tying material. That's another reason why I like it kind of damp, because it'll stay. I have some horrible scissors here. And I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to pinch this down. And I'm just going to try to put this over that blue line. Now the cool thing about the heart is it's pretty forgiving. As long as you get that top part where that first hook is, it will, you know, even if you go a little out or a little wide, or if it's not the straightest, you know, you still get a pretty nice round shape. And the fact that it's symmetrical, it's usually very rewarding visually whenever you open it. It's kind of like Christmas. And bam. Tie this a few times. Now whenever I cut this, I'll leave these strings a little long so I can identify where they're at. When I cut this, man, it'll be I can use like just scissors or whatever. Just be careful to not cut the shirt. And the rest of this, what I'll do is I have my heart. Bam, that was my goal. The rest of it, I'm just gonna bring it in, and I'm gonna do that by put this sleeve kind of like this. I'm just gonna do whatever I feel. I'm gonna try to keep my folds fairly low profile. That'll allow more surface area without me having to drench it with dye to get it into those thick folds. So if it's like 3 inches, you have to put more dye in there for it to submerge all the way through that. So if I keep it fairly smaller folds, I can just lay dye on it, and you know, it won't go all the way. I'll still get that depth, but I don't have as much white space as if I just lay a little bit of dye at the top and have all this white space once I unravel it. Let's go like that. Now you can use, if you don't have sinew and stuff like that, you can, I've used zip ties, that works. Thin zip ties, really anything that's going to constrict these fibers from expanding and absorbing dye. The fact that this has wax on it, I think it helps a little bit, but in reality, it really, I mean, it's a tool in the process, but not, I don't think it's as significant as people would think. It's more the constricting of the fibers. Rubber bands. What I found with rubber bands is I really like these really thin ones, and these packs come with all kinds of them, but I like the thin ones because they don't put as much stress on them. You can kind of build your, if I put a bigger one, it'll actually start to fold over. Watch, it'll just kind of like, well, actually I didn't do so bad, but I like the thinner ones. I can kind of just keep it flat. I can keep my folds kind of exposed instead of them folding over like you're. And then from here, you can either let it, mine's still fairly damp because I went straight into it. You can go straight into the dye process, or you can let it not, let it dry a little bit. Anyway, with this design, always remember this is your heart. So from here to this line right here, dye it. That's going to be your heart. You can dye it multiple colors, but this is what's making your heart. If you want to put like a darker color on the outside, that's cool. I like to put like two different pink, like I make a little darker pink. So it'll go like a lighter pink to a darker pink, and then I throw like a lighter color on the outside to give it a kind of a pop. But you can just kind of mess around with that. And then whatever I put in the center, no matter what shape I'm using, I usually put it somewhere along the outside. And when you're messing with these shirts, you know, this fabric right here where it's kind of, always remember that's your collar, so therefore this is probably your front bottom. You just kind of like go off little hints and stuff, just kind of break it down mentally. Anyway, wish you guys luck. What I do after this, after I dye it, I will take it, I'll put it in a Ziploc bag. Wow, I went 12 minutes. Put it in a Ziploc bag, and I let it sit out in the sun. I let it drip before I put it in the bag, throw it in the bag, let it sit out in the sun for, you know, 20 hours, 24 hours. And then rinse it. When you rinse it with all the ties still in place. So rinse it till you get a lot of that excess off, and then cut your ties. Allow this to reabsorb whatever's around it. Hopefully, the clearer the water, the more hard white line you'll have there. If you open it at the beginning and then you rinse it, you might bleed that line a little bit. You'll still see it, but you might bleed it. When you wash it, rinse it, wash it by itself. And when you say wash it by itself, if you rinse it very well, you can wash. I wash like 6 shirts at a time. And yeah, have fun. Love you guys. I'm gonna dye this and I'll show you what it looks like, I guess, later.